Hello, everyone. Welcome to our channel again. This time we have another very special guest. This is Eric Yearwood, and he is working as an XR prototyper at Meta. Hi, Eric. Thank you for coming.
Hey, Arthur. Thank you for having me. Great talking to you.
It's a pleasure on my side. And you've been working, a part of other things, you've been working also on Orion, which have done some pretty crazy media circles in the past week after Meta Connect, rightfully so, I would say. Today we agreed to talk about maybe your part of work. What have you done with what have you done with Orion? What was your part of the work? Maybe some experience of working on them on those glasses, and then we'll probably dive into the XR, VR, AR of the future. So welcome again, and maybe tell us a few words about yourself and what you are working on.
Yeah. So you said it correctly. I'm an XR prototyper. I'm on a team that is like an AR hardware prototyping team. And my role on that team is to support hardware developers primarily that are prototyping AR hardware, Orion, and devices that are future devices that have yet to be announced. And so my work for that team is to create Unity prototypes primarily that those hardware prototypers then use to test different features and dial in certain calibration settings and do a bunch of hardware related testing. And so it can be both really exciting because I get to see a lot of cool stuff, and it can also be quite scientific because there's a lot of things that they ask me to do that I'm not even sure what they're doing because I'm not a hardware prototyper myself. They will kind of just, hey, can you get the optical display to do this, and so that we could test it? And I say, yep, well, let's do it. And then I send the Unity app, and then they test it on their devices. One of the weird things in the way which my job is set up is the team that I'm connected to is on the West Coast mostly, in Seattle. I'm in New York City. In fact, you can see the New York City skyline.
Oh,
there.
nice.
Nice. So apologies if you hear helicopters going overhead and whatnot. So, but that's my primary connection to Orion. And then I've got a set of other things that I do that are more like pure prototyping related to XR in general, so I touch other projects and other aspects of XR
Gotcha.
as well.
But by the way, two things. So
yeah,
I'll be asking a lot of questions. I'm sure on some of them you won't be able to answer. It's fine. Just tell me, not allowed, cannot, don't want to. It's fine.
Sure.
But I'll just want to have a freedom of asking those questions because, of course, I'm enthusiast and I want to know as much as possible. But maybe before we dial into Orion specifically, maybe tell us, how did you get to XR in general? How did you start at Meta? What we're doing before that? Kind of your journey into VR, XR, AR.
Yeah. So I have lived in New York City for about 11 years. And when I showed up in New York City, I kind of developed two great career-related passions. And one is motion graphics. I'm a motion graphics artist by training. And then the other is comedy. And so I perform comedy here in New York City on stage. And so by day, I was doing motion graphics for film and TV shows. I've worked on, Saturday Night Live. I've worked on a bunch of Marvel superhero TV shows and films and whatnot. And so I, at some point, I realized that XR was going to be the future of entertainment. I saw this YouTube clip of Conan O'Brien in the YouTube mixed reality space. This was like 6-7 years ago. And it was like the first mixed reality video I ever saw where there was a video of a person composited into a VR world. And I think he was playing Job Simulator. And he was, cooking up these virtual eggs and throwing them around. It was so funny. And I just thought to myself, man, this is the future. So I found a Unity class here in the city. I learned to learn Unity. And from the get-go, my object and desire was to learn how to create mixed reality apps and games. And so back then, it was difficult because I had to buy a physical hardware compositor. There weren't even any really great software compositing
Right.
tools until Live. I don't know if you're familiar with those
Yeah, of
guys.
course, sure. I mean, they're here in Prague.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So those guys, I connected with them, got kind of like really involved in as part of their user community. Over time, I worked for them for a little while. I worked with them on a game called Blast On. It's a resolution games
Hmm.
kind of dueling game, and they tasked me with nesting their mixed reality toolkit into Blast On so that players could record mixed reality footage of themselves. So, I was able to, start my career in XR, like working with them, and then worked freelance for quite a while. And then I created a game, my own game that I released on the App Lab called Saber City. And it's like a mixed reality, locally co-located laser tag type game.
Hmm.
And somebody who worked at Meta noticed it on the post that gameplay footage I posted on Twitter, and they said, this would be great for us to use to help showcase a hardware prototype internally. And they said, I can't tell you what the device we're making is, but could we use your app? And I said, okay, yeah, I guess. I didn't even, the person didn't even have a great like Twitter social media footprint. I thought it was like somebody who was trying to trick me or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought
exactly.
it was a scam. But I was like, okay, well, sure. And so it turned out that they were, indeed a hardware prototyper. And then they were so like pleased with, talking to me and all this. And they said, let me help you get a job. And that's how they connected me to the opportunity that I'm connected to now. And so, yeah, the rest is history. I've been working for Meta for a year, and I'm kind of in my second year, and got to see a lot of cool things and do a lot of cool things.
All right, all right.
Mhm.
That's awesome, actually. That's an awesome story. From like self-taught, Unity developer, and then we'll get to the comedy part as well, because stand-up comedy is, I don't want to say it's huge in VR, but
Mhm.
myself, who is running a social VR world,
Yeah,
we definitely did some stand-up comedy in Somnium in VR, which is super fun always.
I've seen it. I've seen clips you posted. Yeah, it's very
Oh
cool.
yeah, yeah. So we've done that. We've done that. I mean, I did myself some, which was very awkward, but hey, it was fun. We always have fun, that's the goal. We have fun, but we don't care whether it's good or not.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, so the story is actually amazing. By the way, many people know that I'm not the biggest fan of Meta. But again,
Hmm.
I'm always ready to admit when Meta is doing some great things, because there's a lot of things Meta is working on. Some approaches I agree, some approaches I disagree. But in general, like meeting great people like yourself is always a pleasure and an amazing opportunity. Uh, how do you, how is it working in Meta from like an XR prototyper perspective? What do you find amazing? What of course I guess trying those prototypes, but yeah, if you can
Hmm.
tell us a little bit about just the working environment and how you guys operate.
Well, I'll tell you, Arthur. Like I I don't know why you say that you're not the biggest fan of Meta. You feel you could feel free to share, or you could feel free to not share. Your viewers
Oh,
probably
sure, I
know
will
already.
if you of course, of course.
Yeah, yeah, but if I were to guess, it would be maybe like the same thing that a lot of people that are ambitious, kind of visionaries, because I've been aware of what you've been doing with Somnium Space and whatnot for a long time, and you're like one of the original kind of crew of people that really started to try and do something really ambitious. And I've noticed that there's a little bit of antipathy from people who try and do big things and take big swings towards Meta, in part because they feel sometimes maybe excluded from certain, like sometimes it can feel a little bit like, you try and work in the Meta can feel sometimes like it's boxing people out of certain things. That's kind of the things I've heard from other people and I felt that a little myself when before I started working for the company. I kind of felt like I don't know how to get in touch with anybody who's like kind of like a big decision maker. I don't know how to partner with this company that's like really making huge moves, and I would love, because I feel like I've really got something to give, something to offer, love to kind of help attach my vision to what they're doing, and I
Hmm.
would love to get something in return. And so in as like that in once I'm now working for the company, that feeling that I had, it got totally inverted, because one of the cool things about working for Meta is internally there is just this wide open networking pool where you can really reach out to anybody and everybody, and make connections in different silos in different parts of the company, and talk to anybody and everybody. And it's in so far as prototyping is about making novel connections, in terms of like dovetailing one technology to another and one
Hmm.
idea to another. It's a great place for stuff like that. So I've really enjoyed it, and I just be cool to be able to stick around for the ride. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
I totally get it. So if
Mhm.
just very shortly, I don't want to kind of
Yeah,
get
no, please, I'd
into
love
it,
to
but
hear.
for me, I'm not dependent on Meta in any way, shape, or form. I never
Yeah.
wanted to be dependent on Meta. We never kind of, for us, we never planned Somnium to be, um, for the Meta platform to be the main platform of we're PCVR. We're doing our own thing. Thank God we're in a position where we can be independent and we can afford to be independent and we can afford to build our own hardware and continue doing our own thing. So that's fine. I'm not financially in any way, shape, or form kind of dependent or want to be dependent or will be dependent on Meta. So that being said, there are a few things which as you said, as being an OG in this space, there are a few things which Meta, I think, did differently than I would do it, and treated some people differently than I would treat them. I think we've seen recently, yesterday or today in the night, Boz apologizing to Palmer Luckey, which is actually a
Mhm.
huge move. And I actually quoted it and congratulated the boss that it's a very nice thing to see. It's a very refreshing thing to see from Meta. So I see Meta is trying to change. Even Mark himself is trying to change, which is the subject of many jokes, but we won't get there. I think so. First of all, the way how they treated several developers like Virtual Desktop, Guy Gordon, or Liv, with Fix Liv, the guy who actually also kickstarted and co-founded the Liv app when they, how Meta tried to copy paste the apps and kind of, all this kind of thing. So that's not very nice. And if I do the business, I try to do it very openly with companies, and it's always good to find win-win, and it's always good to be open and honest, and without all those crazy things. I can feel that Meta is trying to change, so hopefully the sentiment will change, and hopefully they'll become more open to developers. But in the past, they did some really shady stuff with those devs. So that's kind of like number one. I think number two, I'm not a fan of Meta, and I know it's super contradictory. I'm a fan of XR and I want VR to develop, but I'm also not a fan of Meta heavily subsidizing the devices to a point where they lose money on hardware, most probably a lot of money. We see it in the numbers. Because what it created is it created kind of an artificial fairy tale. We're living in a fairy tale of XR where there are no true fundamentals on the market. They ousted a lot of hardware producers out of the business by subsidizing the devices, and they kind of killed PCVR in a way because they put everything on standalone. And what happened is like we had games in 2016, 17 when the PCVR was kind of booming, and then Meta Oculus came with Quest, which is a great device, but they dumped the price so much that they shifted the whole attention to standalones, and then we went graphically wise because processors are just catching up to actually get other great graphics. So graphically wise and gameplay wise, we actually went back several years. So we had amazing games in 2016, and then we came in 2024, and we still didn't reach the way of the games which we have. So in general, subsidizing heavily the market in this way and teaching people that normal hardware is 500, $400. I think that's not the reality. And I'm a little bit afraid that by investing 3 billion or losing a 3 billion per quarter, at some point Meta will say like, we don't want to do it anymore. We don't want to invest so much. And then this will be a very hardcore and harsh awakening for people to the reality of like, oh my God, there's no cheap devices anymore. And then we'll have this, like dip in that. So I'm a little bit concerned about that because I think competition is healthy. But right now, basically, Meta ruled out all the competition. You can see like HTC is struggling, even Pico is struggling, seemingly having no problem with money. They're still struggling even to catch up. And I'm not even talking about smaller companies. So that's another one. And of course, generally Facebook and Mark, the way how the privacy has been treated by Facebook, how many scandals there have been, how many promises have been made but not fulfilled. So there I can see kind of the problem, the trust. It's the trust thing. And I'm being very open, and I'm one of the few people who I'm not trying to be negative all the time. Of course not. I love what Meta is doing in terms of like developing the new hardware. We are talking here. I really want to hear your opinion and stuff. I'm really open, but I also need to kind of be able to see. And because I'm not dependent on Meta financially, I can say things what I think. Because a lot of people are afraid. I can tell you from the behind the scenes are afraid to say things negatively because whether they're VR influencers, YouTubers, or they are app developers, they are dependent on the pipeline of money coming from Meta, whether it's from the platform or from the promotions, and that's why they're not very, not everybody is very open about those things. So yeah, I'm admitting great things, but I'm also kind of pointing out bad things. But I see that Meta is trying to change, and I really, really hope that that's the trend which will continue, and then just great things will come. So that being said apart, so you love working there, which is amazing to hear. So how was your work
let me just respond to kind of some of what you just said. So I can relate to a lot of what you're saying. Before I got hired, I mentioned that I had this game that I created, and about a year before I got the role at Meta, I was contacted by someone on their developer relations team, and who connected me to an opportunity to pitch for a publishing deal for this game. And I spent a ton of time preparing this deck and preparing this pitch, and then I got the opportunity, and I don't feel like it didn't go well, and it wasn't because I didn't do a good job. It just kind of like it wasn't the opportunity that I expected, and so therefore I was really disappointed on the back end of that. And I haven't had the kind of like founder sort of experience that you have, and I haven't had the success that you've had, and I also haven't had the like feeling of competition with Meta on the scale that you have. But it was my little kind of moment where I was kind of like, oh man, like I feel like I'm getting sort of boxed out by this guy. I don't know. It just didn't leave a good taste in my mouth.
I get it.
Yeah.
Of course.
And so, and then like I listened to like some of the people that you're mentioning, like Six, Live, and other people who have said similar things, and I've watched kind of their relationship with Meta and some of the ups and downs there and all this kind of stuff, and I totally could identify with those feelings, and then I got the job now, and I saw some of the upside of being connected to the company, and it's just like I'm a fair weather fan, I guess. It's like when things are going good, and now that I'm kind of like working with the company, things are going well, and like you mentioned, Live having some of that kind of like back and forth with Meta, and some of their technology seemed like it was being, I don't know. You mentioned different situations where Meta might be trying to kind of compete or duplicate or run a race competitively with other technologies or other software stacks, and but things come full circle oftentimes, and like Live, I think, has a very positive relationship now with Meta, and the Palmer Boz thing was cool to see, and so personally, the issue related to so that's that. I guess it's kind of like a thing where it's a long road. I think all of this is a long road, and I think that there's opportunities for everybody to kind of like have multiple engagements and to find creative ways in which to work together. And the longer you've been around and the more people that know you and the more contact and relationships you have, the more surface area there is to reconcile those things and find common ground for collaboration. So that's
Oh,
probably true for
absolutely,
you too. Yeah.
absolutely. I agree with you
Yeah.
100%. And again, my stance is not I'm not boxing myself into a small box saying I'm a hater forever. I'm not that kind
Sure.
of person. I'm always trying to look. Obviously, I know a lot of insights from the industry because I'm building in this industry. But
Yep.
I'm always trying to look from the general perspective, and I'm kind of looking at it from a neutral perspective. Let's call it. Of course, we're all biased in a way. Like this is clear. I'm not complete. Bible style where the truth and all that. Like, of course, I'm biased in my own way. I'm building the hardware. I'm building the software. So we're all in this industry, and Meta is a big player. I'm just telling my kind of feeling. I also trust my gut feeling, and I tell you that even several months ago, I had much more negative stance towards the meta than I'm having now because I see that the change is slowly but steadily. They listen more to the community. They listen more to the developers. They try to get better ways with some of the developers. They didn't have a good relation with them, which is amazing. Which I think it is great. I think last thing which I want to say, and maybe I want to hear your opinion about that. I feel like Meta is a little bit I don't want to I don't know how to say it, a little bit lost. And when I say lost, I mean they have Quest, right? I mean I own all the quests and stuff, right? And they have a quest, and then I watch how the OS has developed in this quest. And at some point they were going heavily on the game VR gaming, which is I think correct given the price point and the audience and the demographics of their audience, because we all know what the demographic is mainly. But then suddenly when Apple Vision Pro came out, right, they started to try to be that Vision Pro copy paste thing, which, productivity, suddenly the productivity came into the place and suddenly all those apps and all those ads and stuff. And I'm lost because on one hand, Meta knows very well who their audience is. They know that these are the younger generation. They know that they're playing what kind of games they're playing. They know what's going on there. On the other hand, Apple is positioning themselves completely differently. By the way, I think Apple has firm strategy. They know exactly what they will be doing in 5 years with this OS, and they just do their own thing. They don't care much about what Meta is doing with the games. Like they don't want to do games. Apple doesn't want to do games at all. It can be seen from the OS, right? The whole OS is done about productivity, not about the games. But Meta is kind of like jumping. Here are the games. Let's announce this, and then let's cancel this, and let's do this, and let's. I understand the agile approach, but for the company which spends so much money on the OS, on the hardware, I always ask myself, like, where's the money? Because the OS doesn't look as expensive as how much money has been spent on that. That's kind of my personal feeling. It's evolving, it's getting better, I guess, but it's still a little bit of like, hey, let's do AR glasses. This is Orion, but let's do Meta Quest 3S, which is the cheap version of Meta Quest 3, but let's do, they're competing with themselves with the Quest 3S and Quest 3, making it cheaper. And I'm like, someone who is building VR hardware, I kind of also need to build strategies for myself. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, what's the direction? And then Ray-Bans, and then Ray-Bans with audio, without audio, and this and that. And I'm like, wow, I'm really bit overwhelmed by what's going on. So maybe what's your take on like the strategy?
Yeah, I mean, to me, you know, I I feel as though uh there is a strong strategic direction for what Meta's trying to do. And I feel like, it's not something that I need to go into because you can look at Mark's keynotes from the last couple of years and it's all right
Mm-hmm.
there in front of you. And in fact, I would say, like you mentioned, like Mark's sort of some of what's happened in terms of his presentation and appearance and identity over the last few years. And you can see the guy sort of relaxing in for better or for worse. I mean, because I feel like his uh, big time investment in the space is starting to mature, and probably like as it matures and starts to seem like the bet might pay off, that he's kind of relaxing into kind of like, okay, yeah, my vision is going to uh, kind of unfold here. I think that some of the what you're kind of like talking about, like the whiplash of these different kind of methodologies and devices and whatnot, and families of devices, those are tactical decisions that may like kind of like be just a byproduct of looking at where the what the demographics are, what the market is saying about what's selling. I mean, as Mark said during Connect, the success of the Ray-Bans was a little bit of a surprise at
Oh,
how big of
sure.
a
He
hit
said it
that
many
was.
times. Yeah. He
And
said it
so
many times.
like I think that they're going to lean into whatever's working. And I think that one thing about the the you went from Quest Pro, which was kind of like a user pro, consumer pro device, to then the Quest 3 and then the Quest 3S. And yes, you want that like high fidelity and all of the really high quality aspects of the Quest Pro, but you want like the vision for Meta's XR play has always been connecting the world with XR, and they want to try and get the devices into as many people's hands as humanly possible, and so getting that price point down as low as possible is if that were possible to do, they were going to reach for it. And with the 3S, they're able to pull it off. And it'll be interesting to see how that gambit plays out. And come Christmas time, how many more users there are in Horizon Worlds and that are using their products across the board. So like I think to me the long-term vision is strong. The tactical decisions may be better or worse depending on what the product is, but I feel like long term, to me, it seems like they know where they're going a little bit more than Apple does. Maybe you could tell me what your thoughts are of the Vision Pro and what you think that the Apple direction is ultimately long term.
Yeah, I mean, and here we have, I would say, opposite opinions, which is great, by the way, for the podcast, because I love to hear. I don't like to hear someone confirming me all the time because
Sure.
this is not
Yeah.
interesting. But so I use Vision Pro a lot. I tell you my story with Apple. So when iPhone came out, so I've been always a geek into the phones. I've owned like early HTCs, which were called pure tech phones with Windows, like also the pad with touch pans and stuff, like early. So I was into it a lot. I was always a Windows guy. I loved, to dig into this. Never used Apple. Then iPhone came out, the first iPhone. I bought one, was a mesmerizing phone, and then I used iPhones for 3 years, and then Android caught up, and then I just switched back to Android and never switched back to iOS. And now, when I got into VR into 15 to 16, you started to hear rumors that Apple is working on a device, and then of course those rumors have been growing stronger and stronger, like in 2000s, and then Robert Scoble, we had a great discussion with him on Spaces, and he told me we had a very heated discussion. I was not an Apple hater, but I was kind of Apple. I laughed at them quite a bit, and I said, like, Apple, they're like boxing out everything and stuff. And Robert said one thing, and I'm grateful that I listened to him. He said, "Listen, you can sing whatever you want, but Apple will come with their devices." And I said, "Yes, I agree." And he said, "Maybe it's time for you to get back into the ecosystem, just for the sake of getting back into the ecosystem and trying it out and preparing yourself for the device." And I kind of said, Apple will be a huge player in XR, and Vision Pro, whatever that device will be, it will be an important device in the ecosystem. So maybe he is right. So I bought myself an iPhone and MacBook, and I forced myself to use it, right? I was completely in a different ecosystem. And great that I did, because and before Apple released Vision Pro, I said to all of the people, I said, "Listen, I feel like Apple is not innovating much in general in the space of mobile phones and stuff. So they kind of lost their mojo." But I said to all my friends, I said, if they will nail the Vision Pro, if they will come up, because I'm in XR industry, if they will come up with a super innovative device, I will, apologize for everything they did wrong in the past. I would kind of wipe it out, and I would say, okay, I started with Apple from the fresh page. And I think they nailed it. Like I think they delivered what they needed to deliver. When I saw the device for the first time, I was mesmerized. I don't remember having this such a strong kind of feeling. Maybe only when I had the first time VR on my head. And I think I use Vision Pro almost every day. I do work in it, so I connect my MacBook to it, and I put some spatial apps around myself. And I just write emails. Like when I have a downtime in the evening, when I sit down and I want to just concentrate on a few emails, I need to go through the whole day of emails and answer people. That's what I do. I listen to the music, so I have my spatial music player here. They have this mini player. I have my MacBook here. I have the Discord, the Twitter, but I'm half in the beach area, but the half bar still sees my real room, so I can see if kids are coming in or if someone is coming in, and I'm kind of in my own spatial bubble, and it works great. That's one use case I do. And another use case is entertainment. The way the 3D movies you watch, the way how they've done entertainment, I can watch all the movies, which is, they re-encoded them. Incredible quality of movies in 3D, incredible theater experience. They're incredible immersive videos. That's what I watch it also for. So I use Vision Pro for productivity and for entertainment. That's it. If I want to really go and play immersive games, I turn on my PC VR, I take my VR1 headset, and I'm fully in VR, doing the all kind of social VR and simulation stuff. So Apple is not even positioning themselves as the gaming device. Like, don't try to VR game on Apple Vision Pro. That's not device for that. But for the work and entertainment, and I think the biggest leap what I saw in Vision Pro, and that what shocked me. And why it shocked me is because Vision Pro came kind of like the last device, right? There were other devices before. HTC has standalones, Meta has standalones, right? Many attempts, like Pico has standalones, and then Vision Pro came out, and I saw the Vision OS, the way how they did the operating system, and it clicked in my mind. I said, "Oh my God, they did it again!" Like they did with macOS in 1985 when they introduced the graphic interface and how people operate with Windows and things like that, which Windows copied later. The same thing they did with Vision OS. The fundamentals, how they nailed it, the way how you operate and you pinch and you move and how it moves in your room and how it feels like a real object. I don't know if you tried Vision Pro. I guess you did, but how it moves, how it makes the shadows, and how you resize things and how you operate with menus. These are the things, I guarantee you, these are the things which we will use and will not change for the next 50 years of XR. This is it. Like this, and we see it in Meta, right? Meta immediately reacted on it and started to do the same interactions in the quests. And now with Orion, I saw some things which are similar. So obviously it works, right? What Vision OS has done, it's kind of they anchored that thing, and I applaud Apple for that. It's exactly that. And I think where I see Apple having, I kind of feel Apple, they watch around, they talk to many companies. I know because they do talk to many companies, and some of them I'm involved with, but um, they have their own plan. They will not rush anything. They will work on Vision Pro 2 probably next year, by maybe announce next year and then release in 2026 in the beginning. They will do their thing. They will do incremental updates, but those incremental updates will bring us in 5, 6, 7 years to a device which you will be able to walk around in the street, and it will be small enough to be comfortable. I still think we will see a lot of iterations of pass-through device, not the optical, but camera pass-through device, which will be perfected to the most perfection you can have. So the lowest latency, the best pass-through visuals, and only when it's perfected, and we'll see several generations of those. Probably as a separate product, they will release the Orion style glasses, which I'm sure they're already working on for some years. And that's only when they'll be seen that it's ready, it's ready. But again, I think Vision OS will be in the middle of all that. That operating system will be the core of those experiences. So I respect Apple for what they did. They, working for 8, 9 years and then suddenly releasing something which was much more advanced than anything on the market in XR. Me, myself, building the VR headset, what they've done is incredibly hard, right? From the hardware perspective, they just the amount of technology they put into the headset is incredible. So yeah, I can see they're not trying to, also fair pricing. By fair pricing, I mean they're not trying to bullshit around. They just said it costs 3.5. That's it. We want to earn on every device the money. We want to recoup the R&D costs so that we can continue to build them in the future. That's the price. If you don't like it, it's all right. That's how we price our things out. I think it's respectable approach, and I know they got so much heat for that. Like, oh my God, that's expensive. Nobody will ever buy it. It's Apple. What are you thinking? Quest is $300. Even Zach, that was funny, right? I mean, I don't know if you've seen my video when I was making fun of Zach, making fun of Apple when
No.
he was saying that Quest 3 is better device than Vision Pro. I'm like,
Oh,
what are you?
yeah,
Don't even try to compare those two devices. Like, this is not even,
right.
like it's Quest is Quest for gaming and Vision Pro is Vision Pro for Apple ecosystem. Like, why are you trying to put those together? Don't do it. Like, don't go in that direction. So, yeah, so that's kind of my opinion. I respect, what they did. And I think they've done, from the hardware perspective, it's a marvelous job. It's an incredible piece of technology, what they've created. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, everything that you're saying is true. I mean, there's no question that Apple, they are the masters of the elegance and the user experiences that are just supreme. And they take their time and they do it right. And yeah, their achievements are self-evident. I think that you know, this is what's exciting about being in this industry is we don't know what'll happen, and there's a lot of like X factors that'll come down the pike in the coming years that things will go one way, and then there'll be something that pops up over here, and then it'll seem like this company's ahead. And I can only really speak to things that I've heard. I mean, I haven't worked for Apple. I have heard that some of the things that I've described that are really great about prototyping at Meta, the kind of like openness with which the employees and the prototypers can connect with one another and share ideas and stuff like that. I've heard that that's not the case at Apple, and somebody
I'm sure
there,
it's not. Yeah, you're right for sure. It's not.
yeah.
It's
So I don't know, like, whether in the coming years, as these different versions of these devices are released, if it will be these elegant expressions of these features that will just be so compelling that will make people be like, I've got to have the Apple device, or whether there will be some unknown thing that'll be a novel combination of ideas that comes from the collaborative spirit that's going on within Meta that will produce some feature that you're like, oh man, I didn't even think that this was, didn't expect this, but this is like too cool to pass up. And it may be, those things may go back and forth, and the whole industry may be better off for those different approaches happening simultaneously. So yeah, I mean, I think that the good thing for everybody is that you make a very good case for Apple having a strong vision, and I feel like Meta, their vision is strong and getting stronger too. And so, like, if there's competition between those two things, that's good. And kind of like to circle all the way back to something the subject that you brought up when you were describing some of the ways in which your experience and kind of perception of Meta is less than desirable. When COVID happened in 2020, it really felt like and the first Quest came out. That's when it really felt like the industry, it pivoted in this direction where it was not merely about like the original kind of visionaries and people and enthusiasts in VR that were like doing the kind of things that we were all doing back then, but it was then kind of this injection of capital from Meta that they purchased Oculus, they released the Quest, and then they were like really going hard to try and get new users in the door, and they were really trying to kind of attach this social media aspect and dimension to XR that wasn't present before, because everybody else was using PC standalone, and insofar as they were doing multiplayer experiences were just kind of starting to bubble up and stuff like this. And so like it felt like there was this arms race that began in 2020 or thereabouts, and we've been on this train now that's just been speeding up, and now it's like really you can see the money on the table, and these two titanic companies are like really racing to kind of develop these devices. but there's still like people like us that were around before all this started to happen that were just so enthused about like quality VR experiences that were like, and really thinking about a new way of experiencing multimedia and having ideas and dreams about like, oh, what if you tried this? What if you like did this over here? And I feel like as this like sprint towards like getting the whole world plugged in to this metaverse has sprouted up, like there's been a lot of low hanging fruit that's kind of been left on the vine that is still there, and a lot of ideas that have yet to be kind of like pursued, that people that are artists and people that are, you know, visionaries and thinkers and like you are developing their own hardware stacks and tech stacks, and not kind of worrying about some of what the titans are doing. There's still room to innovate in ways that are really, really, I think, gonna ultimately be when all the ideas dry up, those people are going to be the people who really continue to push XR forward. The people who have a vision and are just stay the course and are like, yeah, I have this vision of something really cool. I'll give you just one example. Is like before COVID, I had a warehouse space here in New York City, and I had a bunch of bunch of VR gear in the studio space, and I had, you know, multiple Vives set up, and a big like a big like green screen, a floor to ceiling green screen where I was doing like mixed reality compositing and broadcasting and live streaming and all these things. And there was a XR meetup, and there's still people that are now, they're making big strides in the industry that were a part of this meetup way back when. Thomas, the guy who created Cubism, if you're familiar with that game, and other people that are work for Meta and other companies, they were all a part of this meetup, and they used to come. We used to just kind of like have a blast just playing VR games in person, and kind of like, you know, meeting up in person. And then like COVID happened, and that's when kind of like meeting up in the metaverse, and of course, you know, like I'm not denigrating that notion, especially to somebody like you who has a metaverse platform, but like you know, I feel like there hasn't been a huge hit related to XR that has attracted people. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe there's stuff going on in Prague that I have no idea of what it is, but like that has really brought people together in the same physical space yet. And I feel like that's going to be one of the real big things that's going to be like a tectonic shift. If there can be like a shared space experiences that bring people together in person. And that's still an idea that's just like one of the original ideas that even happened, like when there were VR arcades everywhere and all these kind of things. And then COVID like got everybody online, and people haven't kind of like gotten away from that and gone back into connecting in person again. So that's just like one example. There's a million other examples of innovative and novel approaches to how to use VR and AR in order to do things that the big companies aren't doing yet. So yeah, in addition to the arms race that's happening with the two companies, there's a bunch of different directions that people can get excited about and new things that they can try that I think is going to result in a really rich industry, you know, in the coming years.
Yeah, I agree with you. So in terms of the physical spaces, I kind of see a little bit of uptick in VR arcades worldwide, which is, I think, a good thing. I think that COVID, so that whole situation with COVID and Meta rebranding itself as Meta, and then Mark doing that keynote of Metaverse and stuff again at that time, and still a little bit, it felt a little cheesy. It was a little bit rushed. Like he wanted to anchor himself into this, you know, especially to people like ourselves who are building the Metaverse since way back. And then he came in and was like, I'm the Metaverse, you know, we're like, said, all right, okay, all right. Keep it chill, man. Okay, chill.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit funny because all of that keynote was a CGI stuff, right? And I remember watching that keynote from VR, from Somni Space on a big screen with other users there. We were like, right, in full body tracking, you know, we were like, right, Mark, you're dreaming about something which we're already doing right now, you know? So that was funny to watch. But Yeah, I mean, in terms of two different approaches of companies like Apple and Meta, I don't, I think they're so much different in terms of where Apple is going. So what I can tell you from my personal perspective is that I think Apple, so there's nothing which could happen at the moment. So there's no sales numbers or changes unless some apocalyptic thing happens in the world. There's nothing which could change the fact that Apple will release at least two or three more generations of the Vision devices. Like I can almost certainly say that. Like this is already once they decided to release Vision Pro first generation, the decision was made already about next two or three iterations of the same devices.
Mhm.
I can almost guarantee that because Apple would rarely Apple does the magnitude of such a device without having a certain plan for 5+ years for those devices and how it's going. That's what I like because it brings predictability to the XR industry. It brings the real anchor for developers to be able to work and know that those devices will evolve. So if I'm an app developer, I can kind of, count that Apple will bring those devices. And that's a good thing, in my opinion. For XR needed this because in terms of Meta, my feeling again was that there's like, hey, Ray-Ban worked. Oh my God. Okay, we do Ray-Ban, and then, but the Quest 3 might not work. Okay, ditch Quest 3, Quest Pro, forget about Quest Pro. Let's do this, and then suddenly like Orion, everybody loves Orion. Okay, everybody, we do Orion style glasses, but oh shit, we don't have OS for that yet. All right, everybody, we need OS for Orion. Like that's how it feels to me. I don't know. You probably know much more. So that's kind of like how it feels a little bit. And I want Meta to say, okay, guys, we will have a lineup of gaming VR consoles like Quest. This will be for gamers, for VR, will be good pass through and stuff. And then we'll have a lineup of optical pass through devices where we will have, glass style devices and it will be a separate OS. And here is the SDK for that OS. You can start building today. Here are developer kits. Yes, you need to pay quite a bit of money, but you can buy them today and start developing those apps. And let's build those two ecosystems together. Ideally, they talk to each other, those ecosystems, but even if not, let's build those two. Like for example, Snap did with spectacles, right? The what I gave a lot of credit to Evan, who came out on stage and he brought up those glasses. Yes, battery life is 45 minutes. Yes, the field of view is only 45, 46 degrees, but it's a real product which they ship today to developers with a real platform and SDK. And I have to throw this stone into the Mark's yard. Even did the live demo on stage. To me, the fact that Mark didn't do the live demo of his own glasses, where he handcuffed the guy, and then they brought it in, and then they didn't do like I was like, do the demo, give me
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
glimpse, like if it's 5 minutes, I don't care, but even if it crashes, I don't care. Give me the demo. I want to see those in real time. And he didn't, and that felt a little bit again like okay, it's too far away. It's 2027, 2028. Maybe they don't know exactly yet. So that's again, I'm just from the outsider. I'm telling you how I felt about it as someone who is building in this industry and who looks around and watches the Snap and the Magic Leap and Apple and others. That's how it felt to me. But tell me, so you are working on the XR prototyping on for Ryan. Like, can you tell us what was the part of your work? How did you prototype for Orion? Because it's an exciting device. It's an incredible device. But tell us more. We wanna know.
Well, all I can say is that I first of all, created apps and prototypes that allowed, like I said, the hardware team that I'm connected to in order to actually create the physical device. And so that's a bunch of stuff that, is a lot to do with, the construction and testing of different lenses and a lot of things that are, like I said, things that are design decisions that have very little to do with the kind of prototyping that that is kind of where I come from in terms of game development and whatnot. And then the other set of things that I do are sort of like platform agnostic prototypes related to current and next generation features that are things that like are possible on our current products that we have that are available publicly, but they also are looking forward to the release of Orion. And so,
Okay.
yeah, like basically taking the current APIs and like soon to be released APIs that are like Oculus APIs, and then like
Hmm.
stretching them beyond their limits and saying, okay, yeah, but what if you kind of like added in this element or these other things? So yeah, I have to be a little bit vague, but a lot of my prototyping happens on actual Quest devices, but
Hmm.
then is aiming towards Orion.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
You don't need to be
yeah,
vague. Hey, listen, we'll not tell anyone. It's a small community here. It's
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
a couple hundred
uh-huh.
people, maybe some thousand people will
Yeah,
watch it. It's all good. It's
yeah,
all good.
yeah,
Hey,
yeah. It'll all come out
you,
in the wash. Well, that's kind of one of the things that's unfortunate about like when I took the job at Meta. I was kind of like, I really enjoy posting my work online, and I love the back and forth
sure.
with other developers and other people in the XR Twitter and stuff like that, and being able to say, "Hey, here's what I made. What do you think about it? Or what would you do differently, or whatever?" And I knew when I took the job that I was going to kind of be on ice a little bit in terms of being behind the walled garden where I couldn't share my work as readily. And I kind of thought to myself, "Gosh." What, yeah, and I'm not even totally sure now, like on the, whenever I part ways with Meta, what I'll even be able to share that I did on the inside. Cause I know, prototypers that work for Apple and whatnot, and they can't totally share the work that they've done
I mean,
either.
Apple is
So
completely shut down from the reality. Like this, nobody's
yeah,
talking to anyone yet.
yeah, so it's just kind of like that's one of the liabilities there is like sometimes you're like, well, what do I even have to show for myself? I can like once these things are released like 2-3 years down the road, I could talk about what I did and how I was a part of it. But right now I was just kind of like, oh yeah, I was kind of connected. I can't really tell you that much about it. So I kind of have to talk in general terms. But
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Tell me, is there, when you look at, so you work in Meta, you see some products which we obviously don't know about yet, or the Orion style things, different prototypes, and you do those. Are you generally, or maybe specifically, excited about the next 5 years of XR? Are there any products in the pipeline which you think you'll personally use and want to use and dream to use really, really, a lot? Like, what's your personal gut feeling or feeling about the next 5 years of XR, given some of the products which you obviously will not tell us, or maybe yes. Like, what is your feeling for the next 5 years of XR? Is the future bright, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, I think that the kind of like the integration with AI has definitely been uh, a new trajectory that like adds a whole level of unknowns that and exciting unknowns that allow for so like allows for like innovation in a way that like is mind blowing. One of the things that when I came to XR, and I mentioned like I came to it through this kind of like route where I wanted to like make people laugh, and I wanted to be a storyteller. I wanted to like make comedy with XR, and so I was very much focused on entertainment experiences. And as I've gotten deeper into the industry and continue to work with bigger and bigger companies, I've caught on to the vision that like this isn't just about XR as we know it, but it's about like another wave of computing. Like it's spatial computing, and
Yeah, it is.
it's an entirely different way in which human beings will relate to computers. And so, the integration of AI it kind of adds that third leg of the tripod, where you've got AR, VR, like AI, and then you have just like a whole like the world then is your computer, and in that sense, like I feel like sky is the limit for the industry. Um, I guess it's I guess I'm verbally processing here. My hope and desire is that people like you and me and people that are enthusiasts out there and developers out there that are watching and interested in the industry and excited about the industry, that they find ways to connect that are satisfying to them, that are profitable for them. I hope that the sort of profitability of being a developer continues to be like that it continues to trickle down and it's not all consolidated at the top. Because I really want people to, there's always going to be people that capture lightning in a bottle and they create some awesome new thing or some
Sure.
hot new app or something like that, and they get acquired and they're just the success story. But I really hope that the technology allows a bunch of people that have really cool ideas to flourish and to make money. I mean, when you look on X or other places on LinkedIn, there's some people that are really bullish on where the industry is headed and about being like a developer in XR. And then there's a lot of like just as many, kind of sad sack people that are like basically prognosticating that it's not worth getting into, and that it's that AI is going to replace developers and coders, and there's no point in even getting into it to begin with. And I just hope that that's not true. And
It's not.
I don't think it has to be. I don't think it has to be. And because the actual conceptual opportunities are incredible. And yeah, there's things that I'm excited about that, like I said, integrate mixed reality or augmented reality and AI that are just like a couple of things that I've seen internally that I'm like, oh, this has got the magic in it that made me excited about this stuff in the first place. And when other people get to see it too, they're going to just be like, wow, this is so awesome.
Absolutely. I totally agree, and I totally hope the same thing. I think the potential is limitless.
Mm-hmm.
I think AI right now, the way AI is being seen is, again, a little bit in a bubble cycle.
Mm-hmm.
But the fundamental of AI is there. I use, AI for productivity quite a bit. I like some tools. I cannot wait for Apple to fully release the AI for iPhone, where, you can clean your mailbox and kind of summarize things quickly. Those are generally useful things which make my life easier on day-to-day basis. And I in Somnium we have almost 20 people working for Somnium, and we have lots of developers. So I can tell that yes, of course they use AI in their development. It doesn't replace them; it just increases their productivity, which is an amazing thing. So while it will have an effect where the company needed maybe 50 developers before, it will need maybe 30. But AI probably would not replace, developers by itself. Like it's not happening in
Mm-hmm.
general. So or maybe not in the next 10 years or 15 years or 10, 20 years. But yeah, I can definitely see ways how you could, an XR space. I agree that the world will be the canvas, and you will be able to, the world will become the platform of the computing. Definitely AR. So in ways how, I'm a PCVR person generally, right? And I can see that I'll probably be using AR for productivity, like, 6 hours per day, and then 2 hours in the evening, I'll just dive into VR and follow, new world of, Somnium or other platforms in a full scale VR with incredible immersiveness details, which standalones will probably never be able to, because computers are evolving as well, so we'll always be able to take on the Tesla suit and the 4K per eye VR with 140 degrees FOV, and just dive into incredible worlds, which will be rendered on my PC and have an incredible experience, the mind blowing experience. So that's what I'm looking at and kind of seeing the things happen for. 90% of the people, it will be like with iPhones, with mobile phones, they'll use XR glasses as their companion over, during the day. Some will use probably the see-through glasses like Orion. Some will want to opt in for more layers of information like Apple Vision Pro with a camera. So you have the virtual world, but also the real world. And then you learn much more information with much more compute. Because if you realize Vision Pro has an M2 laptop grade chip inside with an R2 for all the sensors, incredible amount of power. This is insane amount of power, and it can process a lot of things. So, those kind of things, and there will be choices. And it depends what you as the person will want to do. It will depend on ecosystems. Again, here where I see Meta is a little bit in a weaker spot because on one hand you have Apple, which again released Vision Pro and suddenly a million apps was available because I can use all my Discord, Twitter immediately there. Meta doesn't have this kind of strong ecosystem. And then Google, we know, is coming with their own devices. Again, Google will be late and will take them, Samsung and Google will do probably some kind of devices like in the beginning with iPhone and Android. It took Android 3 years to actually start producing some sensible devices which you were able to take in the hand and compare with the iPhone. It's like, okay, yeah, now it's kind of feels that it's there. But before that, it was garbage, like 2 years before they were trying to catch up, but it was very hard. So I feel like it's the same situation all over again. And I think what Meta needs to be very careful about, if I'd be Mark, I'd be spending all my billions on building the platform, not the true platform, the true OS of the future, which has one kind of interface, whether it's which works for Quest, but also for see-through devices, because that's where the strong part is in. And I would be paying lots of money to the developers, not the game developers only, but to the developers to bring all the productivity apps. And I would be sitting on this Satya Nadella's head and saying, where is my Microsoft Windows for my, Quest 3? Where is this? I want to bring me this, bring me this, bring me this, This is what I would be doing because I would realize that this is the most important part for the platform to have this coherent one core OS because Mark doesn't have mobile phones. And that it's a big disadvantage, He doesn't have that platform which Google has. They can snap the fingers, and even if they won't have great games, they would have all the Android apps running on their XR suddenly. And then that's a very strong part. What Apple has done with Vision Pro. It's a very strong selling point. So I kind of feel there will be this this battle again with OS and Android versus Apple, and hopefully third player as Meta will succeed. But it will be tough. It will be challenging. I can see that already, and it will be challenging for Meta to catch up with those two giants. Even though Google is not yet in the XR game, but they're trying desperately to get in. Obviously, they'll have to. So yeah, I mean the future is bright but challenging, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I no, you're totally right, and I think you've summarized the different advantages and disadvantages that the major players have, and the things that they're doing, and I think that with Meta, obviously they've got a huge user base in terms of their legacy products and social media products, and so they already are connecting people to their metaverse play. Whatever you want to say about the success or weakness of Horizon Worlds and other things that they're doing related to the metaverse, they do have this huge user base that it's already connected. And then also on the AI front, they're already field testing so many of their AI offerings through their social media products that they're going to have a big head start in that regard as well. So, yeah, I mean, all the companies that you mentioned, they've got these different strengths and weaknesses, and hopefully, the consumers are just better off for the competition. And but since I've got you on in the conversation, maybe could you just kind of share with me a little bit about what where your heart beats related to Somnium and what you want to do that is, what keeps you, what's your true north in terms of your goals related to your business, and what you really want to do that some of these other characters aren't doing?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for asking. So
Sure.
Somnium is always or has always been planned as a highly immersive virtual reality platform. I built something because I wanted to have something like this to exist. And I wanted, I grew up on a game, on several games, but one of the games which was pivotal for me was Ultima Online, which was a huge open MMORPG world where
Hmm.
it was a persistent world where whatever you do has an impact on other people in real time. And the
Mm.
world exists, whether I'm in that world or not in this world, the world evolves and exists. Now, of course, books like Ready Player One, and then subsequently movies, but also other books. There is some like one Russian author who wrote an amazing book which is called Labyrinth of Reflections. His name is Lukyanenko. I really recommend this book. um, they kind of show to me, when I first tried VR, when I first tried room scale VR with the HTC DK version in HTC Vive, blew my mind because I went out of the demo and I said, wow, like experience like Ultima Online, but in VR, it's a total future where I want to see myself. I want to immerse in those crazy worlds, super immersive, super high detailed world where, we feel like we're, like kind of cyberpunk 2077, like graphic style, but in VR, being able to do things freely and do things and affect the world and have, being able to see a person who is standing on the top of the mountains 5 miles away from where I stand in VR and see that person in real time, like light up the torch, and I would see that light up in the night. These are the details which, by the way, are possible in Somnium today, and these are the things which drive me. So highly immersive virtual world with real economy, but there is a caveat. I've played many games in the past, and seeing how we increasingly becoming dependent on central platforms,
Mm.
it's a very scary thing because, as much as I like Apple, it's a central platform. As much as I maybe don't like Meta, it's a central platform. Whenever they decide to take things out of you, whenever they click the fingers and you're banned or for whatever reason, you're gone. And all the
Yeah.
things, because, with XR especially, all the digital belongings will become increasingly more important. Your persona in digital life becomes increasingly more important. Your avatar becomes increasingly more important. All the belongings you earn throughout your digital life becoming, increasingly important. And I wanted to build a world which is decentralized. I wanted to give the power back to the users, saying, hey, we're a platform, but if you don't like our platform, you don't need to stick to it. You can take your belongings and move it out or sell or do it. So that's why we use the blockchain as the backbone, because that's the best technology at the moment, which allows the decentralization. And I know crypto got so much heat, and I hate it with all my heart that crypto scammers have completely destroyed the reputation of this technology, but I still know what this technology can do, and we built in on that layer because as a user, when you learn how to use that crypto, right? When you use, it's not even crypto, it's a blockchain part. When you know how to use the blockchain part and you come to Somnium and you create your avatar and suddenly you mint it on the blockchain and it's your token, right? And you have the proof, first of all, it's original avatar, it's yours. You have the proof that you created it. And then you can sell it on any marketplace. You don't even need to ask me whether you are allowed to sell it. It's automatically inherent in the token. So you can go and sell it on one of 20 different decentralized marketplaces in the world. You don't need to pay the fees to me if you don't want to. You can go and sell it anywhere. And this is your decision, right? We had people who, wanted to quit Somnium for whatever reason. They got pissed on me or whatever. They just got really angry and then they left and they were able, not even asking me a single thing, they were able to just go and sell all their belongings, recoup their value and time they've spent in Somnium, and they just go away. And I think that's a very powerful thing where you as the user, because, if you're talking about 20 plus years, 30 plus years of your existence online, I want to be sure that whatever I collect, whatever I earn, whatever I create, I still control. And
Hmm.
that's why Somnium wants to become more and more, decentralized, both on the technical stack and, of course, on an economical step. We are already decentralized, but I want also technology to become more decentralized. So Somnium allows people to self-host their worlds. So you can create a world in Somnium, but you can load all the assets in real time from AWS or from whatever cloud, from even your cloud if you want to. And again, you have the control over your environment. Somnium is just your gateway. So that is the ultimate, the highly immersive worlds. I'm an investor on the board of Tesla Suit, for example, right? It's one of the, if not the most advanced haptic suit on the market right now, and probably for a long time. It's a true Ready Player One technology thing. You know, I'm also invested in Links, you know, one of these small and independent, and I know they struggled, and you know, the team is working hard. The great things actually are coming. They have done signed some really amazing deals recently. So, you know, this is an independent hardware. We've been building ourselves the device, you know, the VR1. Again, it's a vastly open source device with open source eye tracking algorithms. So giving ability to developers to really develop things they want, modifiable, you know, anchor points, all these things. So openness, high immersiveness, economy, independent economy, it's what drives me and what I believe that if we want to have a future where we're all online and we are all dependent on some sort of metaverse, I want people to have freedom and ability to earn money in the metaverse, to be independent and to have their own, I would say, freedoms and their own future in their own hands. You know, they can like me, but they don't need to like me. But they can always know, hey, if I don't like art or if I don't like Somnium, I can go away and I'm not risking losing years and years of my work because art or somebody didn't like me and banned me or something, right? So these are the core fundamental things, which I think go really in a opposite direction of what Apple is doing, what Meta is doing. You know, they really try to kind of centralize their power and have the grip on their platforms. And I say, my platform is open. You can join. You know, if you want, you can leave. But that's what we're offering. We're offering amazing toolkits for people to build. You know, creators can do worlds with C# scripting, like complete C# scripting is allowed in Somnium. So we have that kind of possibility. So yeah, I think that's what drives me. An ultimate immersive world where you have all the freedoms as an individual, but you're part of the bigger open system with other people who value their own privacy, who value their own time, and who value their own future and belongings. And I think it's just a beautiful place to be in. And I'm grateful that I can work on something like that. It's a you know, when you say, hey, you've been successful, partly we were successful. Obviously, we're still here, we're building things, but I'm yet to, you know, I always push myself harder. So we don't have huge numbers of users, and that's one thing we want to improve. We're improving our platform dramatically so that we bring more tools and creativity. It's a long way. I always knew it's a marathon. I never thought it's a sprint. Many people who were building in XR space, they've quit already a long time ago. I'm, you know, probably one of few who still continue pushing it, and I will continue pushing it because I want to build that world where I go in and then I see in this persistent world thousands of people and they create their own, how to say, own digital future, including the monetary, because you cannot have a virtual world or metaverse without functioning economy. If people are not able to make a living inside the virtual worlds, you don't have a real virtual world. And I think
Mm.
that's one of the key stepstones for me where I would know that people are able to, and by the way, it happens in Somnium already. People are able to build and things and create and sell and making a living, but it's a small amount of people. It's just a tiny amount. But if I can make that times a thousand or 100,000 or a million, then I'll feel it's a success. And we still have a long way to go, but we're here, we're building hard, and we'll be continuing to improve.
Well, I think that's I mean, I'm all about all the things that the values that you just espoused and the philosophical basis for your work. You know, I get it, and I um, I think it's important, and you know, one of the things that I think is distinct about how you described what you're doing and why you're doing it is you started from painting a picture of what kind of thing you want to use, and that is different. I think I don't hear some of the people that are at the top of the food chain in some of the big companies describe their work that way. A lot of the people that are running these big companies, I don't know that they're spending
Oh,
their
I know
time
for
in
sure
the
they're
meta.
not using VR every day. Like I know,
Yeah, yeah,
I see it. Sorry, by the way they talk, I already know that they're not using
yeah.
VR the way how we use it. Like
Yeah.
for sure,
So
it's
and
clear.
so I think that that's kind of like a it's a kind of like when you see the ways in which like the way politics works sometimes, there's a difference between citizen first approach to kind of like constructing government or
Yeah,
changing a government, operating a
absolutely.
government, versus like some sort of like elite perspective that is sort of very top down.
100%.
And
Yes.
and so yeah, like I mean, I'm concerned about those things too. I really don't like thinking about a future where if you don't toe the line, then somebody flips a switch and then your entire career and yeah, like the more that your digital identity, the more that your digital presence, and the more that your business and property gets sort of like pushed online, the more vulnerable you are.
We've seen it, right? I mean, they were able to
Yeah,
ban the former president, the sitting
yeah.
president, from the freaking platform. I mean, whatever you think about the president, it's fine, but it's wrong because you
Yeah.
like what you cannot deplatform the president of the country or one of the biggest countries in the world just because you don't agree with his opinions. Like, what kind of world are we living in? And
Yeah, yeah.
now imagine in the virtual world where you're much more dependent psychologically and monetary on those worlds, because we will be increasingly more dependent on those worlds as the glasses, coming over, as the metaverse in a new sense of way evolves. We will people like for us, people who played Ultima Online in 1999 and were buying and selling houses for hundreds and thousands of dollars at that time. It's normal that digital items have value because we already were into that. But for 99.9% of people, they still laugh when I say, "Hey, I just bought an avatar for $1,500." They say, like, "You did what?" Even in 2024, right? But they don't realize that their kids or even themselves in 15 years, they will be doing exactly that. They will be buying digital sneakers with their physical companion, and they will be valuing that digital sneakers much more because, hey, their visual persona when they're having a call with their spatial persona when they're having a call in a Zoom will suddenly have a necklace, and that necklace will be the same necklace as they have in real life, and everybody will be, they don't realize it, but they will be doing it. So what I'm saying is, when you're increasingly dependent on a platform, which is a centralized platform, different things can happen. We've seen precedences of those happening before. So yeah, that's where kind of I want someone to come in and say, hey, you can live your digital life in a very immersive and amazing way. And by the way, you control every step of it. And I think
Mm.
that's the beautiful future to try to go forward to. Again, we already have it here in Somnium. It's a tiny amount of users, and the impact is not as huge. And my goal and my dream is to grow that number of users so that people realize it more and more. There's a huge problem we need to solve, and onboarding and blockchain is not the easiest technology to understand, but there's no better technology right now for the decentralization. I wish there's something much more easier to use, but unfortunately, there is a price to pay for decentralization, which is you need to learn how to use it. You need to be very self-aware. And that's where we kind of try to pave the way and create new systems which make it easier and easier for people to use in VR. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a hard path to follow.
Well, listen, Artur, this is like a whole fertile territory for, maybe our next conversation, because I really like, I'm passionate about like some of these things. I really don't even have that many people to talk to about this stuff. I feel like to have the kind of like level of investment, it's rare to have the level of investment and like, really the work under your belt to the way that you do, and to have been thinking about all these things. But I think that they're going to be increasingly important. And I feel like the enthusiasm for some of these products that are being released by the big companies, some of the philosophical aspects of what we're talking about are being kind of left behind, and they will undoubtedly they'll return, and people need to be
Absolutely.
thinking about these things now,
Yeah.
because they're
Yeah.
going to be problems for people later on, and there needs to be some groundwork done before they get here. So
The,
yeah, no.
I imagine someone is always kind of like an escape valve
Yeah.
where the pressure is growing, and the same with social media, the pressure is growing, and then you have those incidents, right? The president's being banned and this and that, and then you have suddenly Elon owning the Twitter, which is kind of a little bit of escape valve, right? And I feel Sonim is this escape valve where I don't know whether we'll ever be at 1 billion users with Somnium. Honestly, I don't think so, but I don't know. Maybe yes. But if we can be that really powerful and strong escape valve for people who want to go a different route, who want to be, having the metaverse life, but in a different way, and want to have their own, future in their own hands. I'm happy if we'll be that. Of course, I want to have hundreds of thousands of users, and we'll probably get there. But that we just need that escape out, because if not, we're really heading into a troublesome territory, which I want. And by the way, of course, first of all, now you told me that you're doing stand-up comedy, so you need to come to Somnium and do a stand-up comedy night in Somnium in VR. That's
sure.
number one. I'll be back. I'll be
Okay.
back to you with that. And then of course
Yeah.
we do Pixel Slaves podcast with Shota every week. And we invite amazing guests there, and I'll be happy to invite you, and
Sure.
we will probably have you and someone else, and we'll be discussing XR industry. The more voices we hear from all sides, right? It's important to discuss. You can agree and disagree with me on some things, but then during the discussion, we find the common ground, and then we try to we try to do some good stuff. In the end of the day, we're all trying to do our best, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I'll definitely take you up on all that stuff, and it's just super fun to talk to you and to share all
Likewise.
these ideas. And I'll look forward to doing it again soon.
All right. So thank you for coming. That was an incredible conversation. We're like almost 1.5, 2 hours in, which just flew like this, which is always a good sign. Thank you for answering to me, and for the viewers, I'll put the link to your profile, to Eric's profile, in the description below. And of course, if you're interested, subscribe to the channel, and reach out. Put your thoughts in the comments. What do you think, guys? What is centralization, decentralization? Do you like new hairstyle of Mark? I don't know. Put something in the comments. You can discuss whatever you want, and we'll be back with the next episode soon. So thank you, gents and girls, and bye bye.
Yeah.